one area structure.
Because I always used to just be on the very edge.
Oh, yeah.
And now I'm like in it.
Oh, and he's got us on a different camera angle because you can see the back of my head. Shane always teases me that, Dad, I can only ever see
Oh,
your
there we
back.
go.
Oh, there, that's what
That's
we're
better.
talking
Yeah,
about.
that's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shane's like, Dad, I can tell it's you. I can see the gray in the top of your hair. I'm like, thanks, kiddo.
I think I have more gray than you, but
You wear it.
Not
better.
here.
Not here. All right. Thank you very much, Peter. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our YouTube followers today as well. My pleasure as Economic Development Officer to once a year have the opportunity to call our ECDEV committee meetings to order. So as we are fresh out of a Woodlands County organizational meeting, we don't have a sitting chair, but we'll be addressing that in just a few short seconds. So I would like to call our meeting to order at 2:10 p.m. And with that, we have in front of us, everyone, an agenda. And the first is item 1.2, introduction of our Economic Development Committee members. We do have all of our same ECDEV committee members back as we had from our last part of things. So just a huge congratulations to Kristen and to Shelley for your reappointments to our committee. So we look forward to relying on your expertise and confidence and all of those wonderful things for the next 2 years. And thank you for the past 2 years. And for Patricia, who is our board chair and who is likely to be our board chair again in about a minute or so here. We'll thank you for another year of service upcoming as well. And Councillor Dean, we have you back as well as Councillor Williams and Councillor Wilhelm back as our appointed councillors. So our team of 7 is complete and experienced and ready to go. So it's super exciting. Anything else to add under introductions? Anyone else like to add anything?
I'm good.
Okay, perfect. So with that, we'll move through to item 3.1, call for nomination for Economic Development Committee Chair. So I would like to call for, first call for nominations for Economic Development Committee Chair.
We have to adopt the agenda first.
Oh, sorry, we do have to adopt the agenda first. Yes, thank you very much. Who would like to adopt the agenda? Kristen it is. Thank you very much. Okay, now we'll move to item 3.1. So I will say that well-practiced line. Sorry?
We have to vote on it.
Yes, we do. So we have a motion on the floor. Let's vote on it. This is why I'm not the chair. So let's take a vote on that motion on the floor. Vote to adopt the agenda as stands. All in favor? Thank you very much, everybody. So motion by Kristen and passed unanimously. All right. Now we'll take a breath and we'll move to item 3.1. Thank you, committee. So call for nomination for the ECDEV committee chair. First call for nomination for an Economic Development Committee chair. Kristen.
I would like to nominate Patricia.
Thank you very much. So that's our first call for nominations. Are there any other nominations? Third and final call for any other nominations for chair. Very well, thank you. So we have one nominated person for our chair. So Patricia, are you willing to accept?
Yes.
Wonderful. With that, I shall turn the gavel over to you, both figuratively and literally, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you, everyone. I really do appreciate having the opportunity to sit in this position and hopefully can impress you throughout the year and get a little better at process than I have in the past. Awesome. And I'm really excited to see you ladies back and the level of expertise that you bring to the board. So thank you very much. Awesome. All right, let's move right into number 4, the 4.1 adoption.
Item 3.2, Madam Chair.
Oh, I apologize, sorry. Oh, now it's my turn. I would like to call for a nomination.
We're new, it's our first day.
For the Economic Development Committee Vice Chair.
Can I ask who was our vice chair?
You.
You were. Yes.
Okay, I'd ask if either of you two were interested,
I was going to nominate you. So.
and I would accept that. But I also feel that it's of great benefit if members at large serve as chairs and vice chair. I just think it gives you an opportunity to integrate more. So, if either of you are interested, I would certainly nominate either one of you.
I would nominate you.
We're all looking at you, Shelley.
Yes, I would.
Are you
accept that.
interested?
Well, I nominate Shelley Hiddle.
Awesome. And a second call, is there any other further nominations for vice chair? And a third call, any further nominations for vice chair? Awesome. Then will you accept the nomination?
Yeah.
Thank you. Then congratulations. I guess we have to have a call to question on the nomination for vice chair for Shelley Hiddle. All in favor?
I don't think,
Don't think we
No,
have.
Oh, we don't?
No, I
Okay.
think as long as you have an uncontested nomination, I think we're good. That was what I went with when I
Perfect.
did the chair, so,
As long as they accept.
yes.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. That's great. Okay, so moving on to 4.1, the adoption of the minutes. Did everybody have a chance to read over the minutes? Is there any additions or discussions? If not, then I would ask for accept a motion to accept the minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from the October 17th meeting.
Awesome. A question on the floor. All in favor? And that is passed. Okay, so moving on to section 6.1 under strategic thinking. So this one actually, I just wanted to cover, so with our strategic plan, terms of reference, code of conduct, and the related documents, as our committee members have not changed this time from the past, and these documents have not been updated, and they were part of the package, I just wanted to ask if everybody had a chance to review them, if there's any questions or concerns. Okay. Then if not, I would, go ahead, Al.
Sure, I move that the Economic Development Committee accepts the strategic plan, terms of reference, code of conduct, and related documents as information.
Okay, motion on the floor, all in favor? Awesome, and that is passed. Moving on. Okay, so moving into number 7.1, the Northern Regional Economic Development Program application. We did definitely have a little further discussion on this, and I know that we're looking for some information and some input from the board on this particular topic to see maybe how we can hone in on the outcomes and maybe modify the RFD a little bit before it would go forward to be voted on. So that's something that I'm going to turn it over to you, Bert, to introduce this, and then I'd like to open the floor for discussion on it.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. Let me talk first just a little bit about process, and then I'll dive into the RFD itself. The NRED application deadline is on December 6th. So with our application to NRED, should there be one on behalf of Woodlands County, we have to include a endorsement from council on that. So the intent and the process is, in front of the committee today is an RFD to make a recommendation to council to approve an NRED application. And then council will have the discussion at their November 20th meeting about all of the details within the application and about the amounts. And then council will actually make that final recommendation on should it go forward or should it not. So this is the first step of kind of a three-step process for us to be able to meet that NRED deadline on December 6th and to be able to put something in for that part of it. In addition, Woodlands County has retained the services of a grant writing committee or company, and I've been working with that consultant, and he's very, very familiar with the NRED program. And this is where, looking at the investment attraction focus of it, he's convinced that we've got a slam dunk, because based on how the NRED is written, investment attraction, and last year one of the successful applicants was Grand Prairie County. They received $188,000 over 2 year, which last year it was a 2-year program with a $100,000 maximum each year. This year it's a 3-year program with a $100 maximum each year, but it is in matching funds. So we would align very closely in our application with the application that was approved under NRED for Grand Prairie County last year. So we know that investment attraction activities are something that align themselves really well under this program. And really, now to get into kind of some of the details about the application and the way that this application has come forward, We did have an NRED application from Woodlands County last year that was matched by council and that was successful, and that was for rebranding within Woodlands County. At the end of the day, we didn't proceed forward with that project, so those NRED monies for 2023 for 2024 were actually returned back to the province, and that NRED application didn't go forward, that project that was approved under NRED didn't go forward. So that's where even it's great for us to be able to have the NRED program available to us as a tool to leverage things that we've identified as a group that are a priority to us. It's just a question of, we still have to now go through this NRED approval process, even once we have a council endorsement and all of that. So we'll wait and see how that process holds up. So as we've put the RFD together in working with our grant writer, what we've done is we've identified some of the things that have come out of our committee discussions previously, out of some of the discussions we've had with council previously on the importance of Woodlands County being able to have the right tools in place so that we can significantly grow our tax base and our local economy over time. And that's really what this program is focused on. It's we still don't have the final application prepared and ready. But in talking with Brad Hesback, who, as you know, is our REDS, our Regional ECDEV Specialist, the conversation with Brad was, the program is there. The program was expanded this year in length of time and in size of capacity because they're expecting to see some bigger applications come this year. Because there were a few projects last year that maybe weren't put forward or that were really held back and limited, that it was a pretty significant move by the province to increase the length of time and the length of size of the funding. So it's a funding window that's open to us now that has never been open to us before. And certainly, maybe the $200,000 a year in spending, it takes us into the stratosphere. It's a level that we've never been at before for our Economic Development Committee. But if we want to have a competitive business investment attraction program, it's the path of least resistance, and it's a great opportunity for us to leverage provincial government money to be able to build a really top quality program over the course of the next 3 years. And with that, the breakdown on the activities, the idea is there would be certainly a marketing and an advertising component. There's going to be a materials development component. There'll be a conference attendance component. There'll be funds there that we will allocate to be able to host inbound site tours and maybe specifically reach out, as we've talked about, to site selectors to say, hey, we would want to pay your airfare, your hotels, all of your expenses to bring you to Woodlands County for 3 days, to take you on a site tour, to show you around, to have you meet some of our local industrial leaders, to do some of those things. So all of that is what is involved in this process. And I know it's almost a cart horse kind of application in some ways, because if we're going to make the application, we're best to go big or go home on the application to make sure that we're applying for something significant. But we may not at this point in time have all of our activities fully detailed and fully line itemed out. For the application itself, in conversation with our grant writer, we don't really need to go line by line. And when I think back, and I see Mr. Gideev is here now, but when we were putting together that application for the Small Community Opportunity Program last year, we didn't line item out every part of the detail. What we did was we said, hey, we want to earmark roughly this much for this type of activity. We want to roughly earmark roughly this much for this type of activity. So I really encourage the committee to take a look at this. This is an opportunity for us to pour literal jet fuel on the investment attraction activities that we've already been doing, to be able to bring it to an absolutely stellar world-class level and really establish ourselves as one of the most aggressive municipalities in Alberta when it comes to the direct outreach we can do to highlight ourselves and to really build out a Woodlands County brand and really build out an opportunity for us as Woodlands to be a top relationship builder with site selectors and decision makers from all over the place. So that's where I'm going with this. So it really does build on, I think, a lot of the things that we've talked about around the Economic Development Committee table. Certainly the question is the dollar amount right? We don't even know if we would get approved for that full amount. But because we have the ability to apply for that amount, I wanted to put the, I don't want to say blue sky because it isn't really blue sky, but I wanted to put the best possible situation in front of the committee for discussion for today, for us to say at a maximum level, for a $300,000 investment by the county over 3 years, we could leverage $300,000 from the province to have an absolutely incredible investment attraction campaign. And I think that's probably good for opening comments.
Okay, go ahead, Kristen.
I had two questions. One of them, when I hear you talking about this, it makes me think of probably a year ago, we had a presentation. I don't know if it was from Greenview.
Yes.
Was it Greenview?
Yeah.
So it would be more or less something like that?
We're not looking at, so with the dollars from NRED, it isn't for site development. What we're
Not
looking.
but like how they marketed it.
Correct, yes. And what's interesting is with the money that they did receive through Grand Prairie County, I do encourage all of you, I think I have shared it previously, but if I haven't, they have a new Invest Northwest website. So it's City of Grand Prairie, County of Grand Prairie, and Greenview County all together. And they have Work Northwest, Invest Northwest, all of these kind of related materials that they have developed and put together that are landing pages for when people are looking at moving in or when people are looking at investing and coming in.
My second question was, I don't know if this is necessarily for you, but you said last year you applied for a different grant under NRED, was approved, was
Yes.
the communications one.
Yes.
We did not go through with the project, then the money was returned.
Correct.
So we are paying for a grant writer to come and write grants. And we're paying your time to do these things. And so then we put all this work and effort into these projects and then we get the money and then the money's then returned. So I don't think that accountability goes to you. Oh goodness gracious, I'm really sorry. But I'm like, was that an ECDET issue? Was that
No.
a communication?
No.
Because I'm like, that's
So-
very disappointing.
So the NRED application did come through communications, and as you know, it's been a interesting year in regards to some of the staffing and some of the internal issues that we've gone through on the personnel side.
Right.
And it really did, I think, come down to some of those personnel sort of things. It's a recurring theme that I think council may hear, Alan, over the course of the next little while. We've had some activities within several different departments of the county that just due to different issues within personnel and with a lack of manpower, we just weren't able to go forward with all of the funding and all of the programs that really were on the books.
I just want to make sure that if we spend our grant writer's time and energy, your time and energy, we get this money and then nothing happens. That's very disappointing.
I think that the most exciting thing with this is that given where we are at in regards to both direction from council and what we've heard from the committee, if we get approved on these funds, they become our number one set of activities.
Thank you.
Further questions?
So it's targeted to be basically a high-end marketing campaign. Kind of
Yes,
thing?
so imagine, we've had the opportunity before to host site selectors, right?
Right.
And we hosted that as an overall event, right? Now, over 3 years, something like that might come back in again. If we go with, hey, maybe we wanted to bring SiteLink back in 5 years' time, well, the third year of this funding might coincide with that. So that's one possibility. But we've also talked at this table about the possibility of us just reaching directly out to an individual company or an individual group of site selectors and saying, hey, we'd like to do an inbound site tour and bring you to Woodlands County. And we know that to do that, we'd have to pay for flights, for meals, for transportation, for all of those things. You're looking at a roughly $5,000 to $10,000 US bill for each one of those that you might want to bring in. So you can see how when you build that into a $200,000 annual program, it might give us a half a dozen opportunities each year to try and to bring some outside folks in.
So would we be looking to target specific industries or, because like when we did, like when you look at site selection, it's kind of a shotgun approach. It's like everything from like retail to heavy industry.
Yes.
There's like anything and everything in there. This would be potentially more targeted specifically for certain kinds of industries? Is that
Correct.
where you're thinking? Like it doesn't
So-
spell that out, but
So I'll go back to our fate, forestry, ag, tourism, energy. I think that those are key sectors that we've identified that we want to take a look at. Follow it up with the gravel mining or the surface mining part of things, and then with aviation. And I think if we focus within those six. Now, in talking both with Brad and with our grant writer, what they had specified for us is they said, don't necessarily identify those six industries because you may find as the 3 years goes on, maybe there's another industry that pops up where you say, oh, no, we need somebody from this industry because this is right. And, you know, maybe it's data centers or it's something like that, right?
right, yeah.
But when you take a look at the other developments and pending developments that we have, this program would give us some great companion dollars to be able to just work with the partners that those groups might identify, that it would be really beneficial for us to build stronger relationships with and to show them more about the county, right? And then there is a general marketing piece. So there is kind of the old school sort of, you know, hey, yeah, we're marketing to site selectors, and here's some of the key magazines and key things we can use to do that. So there is that part of it, but a lot of it can be very targeted, right? And it's new territory for us. So, I mean, we're breaking ground all the way along the way. So there's undoubtedly, as we work through this, going to be a lot of input that we see coming both from the committee and from council on what are some of the strategic investments that we make based on any funds that we may receive.
I have to digest it a little bit more, I think. I guess the concern that I have is potentially spending a bunch of money on flashy brochures and stuff and not actually having something to see for it.
That's not what this is.
So that's what I'm trying to understand, I guess, is that's why if it's targeting specific things, like so hypothetically, you get a power facility that gets built, Moraine or ANC expands or some other thing that we don't know about yet. Would we target businesses that would be synergistic to that?
Absolutely.
That kind of thing. That's what I'm getting at is like we're targeting, or maybe it's airport development and there's specifically site selectors or industries that you target that are specifically related to something around the airport.
Right.
And utilizing that.
Maybe we talk to 10 different people that we know are interested in hangar development, right?
Okay.
That's what we're talking
Okay.
about is.
So it's
is
very
looking at a
targeted.
Targeted kind of campaign.
Okay.
Now, on the general piece, the general side of it, so, you know, some of the big players that are in the site selection industry are names that we've mentioned and we've talked about before. Conway is probably one of the biggest ones, right? And we've worked with them specifically on even some research for us in the past. That's where our circular economy diagram comes from, is from that work we've done with Conway previously. Well, Conway is the group that actually founded the Site Selection Guild, and they've recently sold that off. But Conway is the group that runs Site Selection Magazine. And so further down in some of the other information we've given, there is an example of what an advertising campaign with them could look like, right?
Okay.
And so when you break out and look at some of those dollars, they are pretty significant, right? One other item we've always talked about around this table is the Invest Alberta magazine. And for the last several years, we haven't advertised in that because it's $5,000 a page, right?
Right.
And it's been beyond what our scope and what our means is. So, you know, even to just have the funds to be able to put into Invest Alberta magazine, well, there's 5,000 of the 200,000 in potential spending each year, right?
And I guess, how do you measure, I think you mentioned it, how do you measure return on investment? Like yeah, for me, advertising in a magazine just doesn't seem like a good way to spend our money kind of
Right.
thing. But
And that is just one component of it,
Yeah.
right? So when you take a look at, okay, if we've got 200,000 a year to spend, right? As we go through and we put the final details into the grant application, we can map out and say, okay, look, we would rather bring 10 site selectors a year to our county, so we need to have $100,000 in order to be able to do that. So that's what we're going to apply for, right? And we would rather work on that individual relationship building, rather than we would general advertising. And there's probably a lot
Right.
of value in that, right? And that is, when I talk about what this program does, is it gives us the ability to take all of our existing activities to that next level. Relationship building is what we know we're good at. And this is what it does, is it gives us an opportunity to go, hey, what are some of the neat tools we can use to keep building on the relationships that we've been working on?
So knowing that a lot of these projects are like very long-term and they take a while to even just pick the sites,
Right.
would a tangible goal be getting on a short list? At least one short list a year kind of thing. So out of
I
10 opportunities that you pitch, if we could get on one short list, we'd consider that to be success. Something like that. Like, I guess that's what I'm looking for a little bit, is like something to say, how to, like after a year or even 2 years into this, how do we say that it's working?
Right. So if you take a look, as part of the grant, if you look at page 75 of 140,
Yep.
Expected outcomes and economic impact. So we do have detailed out a couple of points there. And then also under project management and the evaluation, right? And so that will be part of our application, is to evaluate some metrics, including new investment inquiries, site visits, and investments secured. And then we will provide a quarterly report back, which is what we need to do as part of the grant application. So we will have ongoing tracking of it. And, if you go up 2 paragraphs above that, under the project activities, implementation and monitoring is point number 4, right? We want to monitor site visits, inbound and outbound activities, successful business retention to evaluate the plan's impact, right? So for example, if you think back to, we had just recently provided out an email update on, hey, here's all of the work that we've done this year around the energy sector, right? With all of the conferences attended and with all of that. All of those are site selection activities. So it isn't just the marketing campaign, it's these funds can be leveraged to help us to offset and to do more of what we're already doing. So if we have 6 more conferences that are in Canada that we need to attend, we would now have the opportunity to do it with the funds that this would unleash for us.
So my comment on this, well, actually, I have a few comments based on some conversations we've had prior to the meeting too. So specifically, would it meet the criteria if the designated project was for the creation of an energy park study? And doing it from the perspective of kind of piggybacking there on like what Shelley had mentioned, is the big energy creators, the players, they're going to come here because of the natural resources. They already know about us. You know, even if we're not marketing to them necessarily, they're going to look on a map, they're going to see for a lot of it what area makes sense. But places like data centers that are going to be possibly what's actually going to have these energy companies come, because they can have these data centers operate at their location. It's the data centers that we should be marketing an energy park to. So if that was the case, as opposed to thinking of it as generic site selection activities, then I guess maybe the direction that I could see being beneficial is going with a complete new way of marketing and leaving the brochures, that kind of thing behind, going with an AI integrated approach with a company that is going to be able to take a target market, say for example, of data centers and other large energy users. And as opposed to just bringing in site selectors, we target those specific companies. And we go after those top, say 5 companies or 10 companies and interact with those and bring them here. You know, so that it's more of a focused approach rather than just a generic site selection.
Focused approach is definitely the key words, yes. And to do something that's AI integrated, I have to admit, you're more educated on the AI part of it than I am, so.
Me too.
I think that if we can do that, that makes perfect sense. I right now, I don't know how we would do that, but I think that we certainly could. In regards to doing an energy park study, I would say the way that we have this structured right now, no, we wouldn't be able to do a study with it. But if we have a partner that we know that has a site that they want to market, to say, hey, we have an energy park, then we're looking for a partner, that's what these dollars can be used for. So targeted marketing, and it's to promote the county in general. So it may be that as we move forward, we prove out and we go, hey, we've got 2 or 3 key businesses that have key sites that they own that we can use these dollars to help market and promote and make sure that we're cementing and bringing in something that's going to increase our tax base.
It's definitely the accessory industries, that part of it I could see as being the biggest growth opportunity.
Yeah.
And are we knowledgeable enough on who those accessory industries are? And if not, then exactly, then how do we go about?
And this is the tricky part with this being a 3-year program. It's both tricky and it's beautiful, because you look at what were we doing 3 years ago? Is it the same as what we're doing today? No. We're a lot further down the road, and we're a little bit more advanced today in some ways than what we maybe were 3 years ago. Now, where are we going to be 3 years from now? It'll probably be the same thing. We maybe be a little bit more advanced or have different set priorities or that sort of thing. But we have to approach it with a little bit of fluidity. But the key part of it is we need to realize that if the committee endorses this RFD to recommend to council to apply for the maximum, then we have plenty of opportunity at the council meeting for council to give us further direction or to determine what the dollar amount is, right? I mean, because maybe it isn't the max. Maybe it makes more sense that we're at a 25 or a 50 or, some kind of a lower level, right? But we have a whole round of budgeting that council is just starting to come into. So that's where, in the discussions that I've had with the people I've had, including our interim CAOs, go big or go home. Let's put it in front of everybody the way it is now, and if we pare it back, hey, we pare it back. That's okay. But it seems to be an incredible opportunity for us to get 50% leveraged money to do more of the activities that we've indicated that we really want to do.
And the commitment from Woodlands County is to match the funds. So if you have 200,000 to spend in a year, 100 is from the county and 100 is from the grant.
Correct. And what we're in the process of doing with the budget this year, and it isn't fully fleshed out, and I don't know even if it's sort of been fully presented to council, but on the admin side, what they're telling us is we'll have actually a contingency line in the budget this year with what leveraged grants will be, right? So the idea is it would sit in that contingency line, and Woodlands is only spending and allocating the money if the grant is awarded, right? If the grant isn't awarded, then we won't be spending that 100,000 this year and then over the next 2, right? But if we apply for and we get the full 100, in that contingency fund, there'll be the matching dollars allocated that, yes, we'll be able to go forward with it. Because in the past, that's been one of our limiting factors. When the NRED and the SCOP have come up, we haven't had the matching dollars set aside anywhere for us to be able to do a meaningful application, right? And so, yes, this year, the pendulum has swung right to the nth degree to go as big as we can go. It's a place to start. And if we pare back, we pare back.
But there is a plan.
Yes.
Like on the admin side, they've budgeted, they've come up with a way to present to council.
Yes. And over the course
on how
of
they
the
could fund it.
budget, council deliberations and all of that's all going to come out and all come forward as well. And I think Denisha is presenting some of the budget to council, I think, for the meeting package next week as well.
I just want to clarify a couple of points on the process. So if we were to go ahead and approve this and it goes to council, a few things. So if council approves it and we come back with the full amount, a couple of questions. Is there the option to only accept a portion of the grant, or would we have to either accept or reject all of the grant, similar to last year? And even also taking into consideration Kristen's comments on application of resources and so on. I guess based on that, is it worth the investment up front and then be able to flesh out the program as time goes? And when would the grant be awarded and recognizing that we have to get this in by December 6th.
So the application deadline is December 6th. Grants will be awarded, I believe they've given us the date of March 31st of '25.
So essentially then, to kind of hone my question is, this right now is what was quickly put together to be able to go with the December 6th deadline. And you said, like you said, still a work in progress. And how much can we vary from that if it's accepted based on that? If council decides that they want to have you come back with a more tight focus?
So my experience has been that with these multi-year programs, right, what happens is we, and even with SCOP, with the program we currently have, we've already had to do 2 reports back to SCOP on what are our activities and what are we up to, right? And so this is undoubtedly going to be exactly the same. So once approved, there's always room for us to kind of further hone in, and there's a little bit of room to move around, as long as we're still kind of focusing on the same main problem, which the main problem that we're identifying as part of our grant application is to the reason that we're applying is that site selectors don't fully understand what our opportunities are within Woodlands County, and that we as Woodlands County, we know that we need to be able to bring in large projects to expand our tax base and to increase our local employment, provide better opportunity. So, I mean, those are kind of the general alignments for sure.
Good discussion. There's lots of layers to this RFD for me. From an economic development point of view, I wish we had $1 million to spend. I wish we could send people all over the world. My counselor hat that I wear tells me that this is going to be a really tough sell at the council table, given what we know is coming down the pipe for other, call it, I don't want to say to our residents, their road is really important. The services we provide are very important. This is difficult, to your point, how do you measure it? Where's the payoff? Where's the ROI? So at this level, the ask is for council to commit $100,000 a year over the next 3 years. And I think it's going to be a tough sell. I might be wrong about that, but I think it would be. I'd have a hard time supporting wearing that counselor hat, saying, can we have $100,000? But I do understand mechanically that what our controller is saying is ask for it, have a contingency fund. So that's logical. We may not get it, but if we do, there's money set aside. But I just, I want to be realistic. I think it's going to be a hard ask to commit $100,000 a year for lack of a better term, for advertising, right? This is advertising and promotion. It's you're right. We're good at relationships, as proven out by the site visit out to the Windfall site. But we were ready for that. You guys did a great job, and something tells me that sitting before us is the gentleman that certainly within Alberta probably has the best skill set when it comes to site selection. And I think we can utilize that horsepower. I'm not sure that I could sell council on we need another $200,000 a year of that. So I just wanted to put that on the table so everybody was aware of that. I'm willing to go with what the committee says, but I think asking council for $100,000 a year for the next 3 years, I'm not sure I could support that.
Go ahead, Krista.
I'm just looking at the project objectives, and one of them, it says addressing infrastructure needs. So could you slide roads in there?
I'll give you an argument.
Right?
I don't really know what that means.
Well,
Infrastructure, like,
Well, I know what infrastructure
Yeah.
means, but I don't know how this relates to our residents' infrastructure. It's got nothing to do with your subdivision road, right?
unless new business gets built on the end of it, and then we get, unless Windfall gets another business there and they repave the Windfall Road, like that road's terrible.
Well, I mean, you can extrapolate in a variety of ways. If you attract significant projects, then you build your assessment base, which gives you more funds to do all kinds of things. That's the end goal, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
It's just,
That's the whole point of economic development.
it's just hard to connect that dot.
Aye.
If I'm having coffee with the residents, it's hard to connect that dot
Yeah.
to their road.
And that's what, all that we care about.
It's what
Like
95% of the calls come in are.
Yeah.
And you don't want to be short-sighted or you know, and have a very pigeonholed focus, but the reality is, you know, that's what people are most concerned with.
Go ahead, Mark.
so
Yeah.
to the point on infrastructure, and Councillor Dean, thank you very much. And I know this is new territory for us, right? We've never had an economic development ask that has been this big before within Woodlands County. So it puts us into new territory, and it's gonna stretch the thinking, right? I mean, there's no doubt about it. On the infrastructure side, now, when you think about it, you know, to spend $300,000 on infrastructure, you know, it's the equivalent of a couple of grader blades a year, right? Or if we're looking at putting in, you know, even the access and
A
the,
couple of crater blades a year.
well, if you're looking at, you know, $10,000 or $20,000 per grader blade or per those kinds of things, right? I mean, we buy that kind of infrastructure stuff all the time, right? But where I'm going with this is the idea that, you know, you're not gonna build infrastructure with $300,000. But if we identify infrastructure needs as part of this, then that's something that could be meaningful. And so by working through on one of these relationships with a group that may wanna come in, if we realize, hey, they need this road access, or they need this, or they need, you know, this is the you know, you can identify infrastructure needs through this program. So that's part of it as well, is that it does allow us, like, it isn't just paying for advertising. That's not the way to look at the full part of it.
Oh,
It's-
I'm with you 100%. But what I see, again, sorry, the most impactful thing that this could bring to our county is giving our economic development officer and his team more opportunity to build good relationships out in the industry. It's just a lot of money to do
Yes.
that. And so some of the examples that you used were attending more conferences, flying people in from the States. Those, you know, those are lofty goals, if you will. There's value in all of that stuff. It's just when you balance it, when we look at what we have to spend and we're crunching dollars to make sure that everything is covered, this is new. And so just be prepared for council to ask some pretty hard questions, because you're gonna come and you're gonna deliver this, right? So you need to make sure that
Well,
you've got a compelling argument for council.
And this will be the interesting part of it, is next week I am in Salt Lake City for the Economics Conference. So I'll be on Teams, or Joan may be doing it. We're in the process of trying to figure out the best way to present the RFD to council on the 20th, but yeah.
And in hindsight's 2020, you know, if this could have come before council in the spring
Yeah.
or in the summer, but, you know, we're up against a 3-week, we got 3 weeks to make this decision, right,
Yeah.
for this year, and it's,
Well, I mean, and to that point, right, what we're learning with the direction of the government right now, it looks like NRED and SCOP are programs that are here to stay, at least for another couple of years, right? So, hey, this is the first time we've had a chance to look at this. If for whatever reason the timing isn't right or things aren't right, and if council ends up saying no, that's totally okay.
or what if council said, we simply don't have $100,000 to spend on this, but we have 40.
Then we would rejig the application to say,
And I
hey,
think
we'll
that's
apply
what
for 40.
Patricia was asking,
Yeah.
right? And what if, so coming back to Patricia's question, within the parameters of the grant and as it rolls out, if you ask for 200, 200 is approved, so 100 is matching. If in the course of that year you decide, you know what, we're only going to spend 25 this year, we're only going to spend 50s,
Yeah.
is that allowable?
You probably could round it down, but I think you would have to submit some pretty good rationale as to what changed, because this is what you asked for.
Mhm.
So why are you not now doing that?
Okay,
Right?
so that's probably not really
Yeah,
a realistic thing.
And so this was the conversation with Brad Hessback, because, you know, of course, in Brad's role with GOA, he says, well, I can't tell you what to do. And I'm like, yeah, no, I totally understand Brad, and I don't want to put him on the spot. And Brad, if you're watching, hello. So there's that part of it. But, you know, as you have the conversation and you go, well, why did they expand the amount and the limit on the NRED program? Well, because they want to see some bigger applications. So, okay, you know, I mean, we can see whether it's appropriate for us to rise to that occasion. If it is, great, and if it's not, then we can submit a revised application with the lower amount, or if council says, worst case scenario for right now, it doesn't fit right now, then no problem, we shelve it, and then we start to have the conversation earlier in the year for the end of 25, so that we're ready for an application in December 25 for 26.
And that's, of course, a possibility. I want to throw an idea out for the committee just to consider. So when we hosted the first site selector meeting convention,
Yeah.
our cost was around $5,000.
Yes, we put in that initial 5,
Sure.
yes.
We got value out of that. And then we continued to get value because, you know, your networking skills, I know Shelley attended site selection in Lac La Biche, I think, wasn't it?
Yep.
So our cost was reasonably minimal there. The return was quite tangible, I think. Like, I know what you said was when you guys went out to Windfall, you know, that site, attending that site selection conference really helped you deliver a product to them.
Yeah, it helped me understand what site selectors are looking for. So if I get an opportunity to go on a tour with a site selector, I kind of know what they're looking for. I know what to anticipate
Sure.
and be prepared for.
Sure.
Yeah.
So to that end, where I'm going with this is pretty broad-based. There's a lot of pieces that you could put into play if this grant was approved.
Correct. This is the best analogy that I can think of, and I don't know if it's a good analogy. This is literally jet fuel that we're pouring into the engine if we apply for this.
And when I say a lot of pieces, but what I mean is our focus isn't narrow on we're just going to conferences or we're just bringing in site selectors. There's a
Right.
whole bunch of things that we can utilize these funds
It's-
to help.
It lets us do a world-class, broad-based investment attraction program with
Okay.
Woodlands County as the focus.
So what I'd suggest, just be prepared for, is maybe council is looking for a narrower focus and prioritize what areas you think will bring the best return back to Woodlands County.
Okay?
So that if that ask of, you're asking council to spend $100,000 a year, if they say, hey, we just can't, but we could spend 25 or we could spend 40, I would suggest you might want to have that scale or that list of which you feel bring the most values, which ones are have the highest priority.
We can certainly do that. And what I would suggest, we haven't talked about how public we want to be with who we've engaged on the grant writing side and with all of that. So I've got a little bit of digging to do there. But if it's appropriate, I would maybe even ask him to accompany me and come to our council meeting so that we've got some, because he's quite familiar with the NRED grant itself. And so if we were to take a look at how would we scale activities, having his expertise at the table could be really beneficial.
Yeah, I think it would be beneficial for all of us, I
Agreed.
guess. So, yeah, so where I'm going with this is, I know I've said this already, but I'd have a hard time supporting this RFD.
Because of the dollar value
Yeah.
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But if we could somehow have within this motion, of an up to, instead of this is what we're asking.
So, Madam Chair, that's exactly what I was going to suggest. The idea then would be, under the recommendation that the Economic Development Committee recommends that Woodland County Council endorse an NRED program application for the design and activation of a 3-year integrated plan to aggressively enhance Woodlands County's investment attraction profile with corporate and industrial site selectors, and if we say to a maximum of $100,000 per year over 3 years. Is that a fair way to do it?
And also, I think, Shelley, you had additional comments, did you?
No, I think I'm
sorry.
good now.
Okay, and also I just wanted to ask, or maybe we have Sean Goodeve in the room, so, and I,
And
go
I
ahead.
do mean to change that to a max of 200,000, because it's a max of 200,000 that would be asking for, and then 100,000 matching. So a max of 200,000 with 100,000 matching per year. Sorry, my
Sorry about that.
apologies.
I was just gonna say, I know you've joined us and we have heard kind of part of the conversation about this, and Bert will do a better introduction a little later, but Sean is an economic development and a planning development specialist. So, and I feel that based on the conversation, I'm curious if you have any 2 cents to add to our. I realize I'm putting you on the
You're welcome to
spot.
come up here, Sean, if you
Yeah, if you don't mind, sure.
I'm definitely putting you on the spot, but I feel like if there's an expert in the room and you don't ask, it's an opportunity wasted.
Well, it's nice to see some of you again. EDA events over the years. It's interesting, right? I mean, I'm hearing the challenge, and it's always hard, when you think about marketing, right? It's like, well, what's the through line to that ROI? What's the percentage of the ROI? Are we gonna get a full 100%? Are we gonna get 300% return? Are we gonna get 18% return, right? Like, how do you balance that out? It gets a little easier, when you start doing more digital campaigns versus on the print side, right? Because you can actually kind of do a through line in terms of like, click-throughs and time on page and unique visits and all that good stuff. But when you look at the publications that were referenced, and they're pricey, there's a high price point on those, I think. But what I kept kind of coming back to is, what are your competitors doing? What are your competitors doing? What are the other municipalities doing that may or may not be trying to attract either the same primary industries or even the secondary or tertiary industries that you're looking to attract that may have pretty similar value propositions in terms of price point on housing and infrastructure and access to markets or education centers, et cetera. And I think that's, for me, is one of the thoughts that I give consideration to, having worked for 3 different municipalities and done exactly the same type of thing that Bert's doing. And you go through the budget process, like, well, I need X amount, and it's a hard play because in economic development, like I think 3 of you said this, like you may not see that return for years. And sometimes you might not even be able to make a through line back to, oh, well, we got this because they saw that our ad in Invest Alberta magazine. But it's there's kind of 2 elements to it, right? There's an education piece and there's an awareness piece, and I think it's about presenting Woodlands and getting out in front of market. And something that was interesting that I'll share with you is Chris Steele. I was involved as chair of the Greater Edmonton Economic Development Team. Bert and I were both on that at the time, actually. And as being chair, we were working to establish Edmonton Global. And so one of the early outsets of that was the Capital Region Board brought forward the Chris Steele, who's like an internationally recognized site selector. And he spoke and he shattered the hopes and dreams of most of those elected officials in the room. And he's like, "You're not even on the map." And everyone's like, "Of course we're on the map. We have Alberta Industrial Heartlands right here." And it's like, "You're not on the map. Like people don't know about you at all." And it was extremely humbling, but it was a really important checkpoint for all of us, and it's like, okay, well, how do we get on the map? What is our value proposition? What is our targeted sectors? How do we start getting out there? And I only mention that it's a similar context, but I think it's relational to this in the sense that you're trying to get on the map. You're trying to articulate what is the opportunity here in Woodlands. And yes, there's opportunity. I mean, it's quite clear there's tremendous opportunity in this county for large scale return. And so, you know, a $200,000 investment today, yeah, that's going to yield leaps and bounds in terms of the return in the future on the large scale. I think it's also really interesting though, it's you know, when you're out in market like that, when you're in these large publications and they do get read, they have large readerships, your competitors are in there for one thing, but it's more about also the secondary and tertiary opportunities and businesses that may be thinking differently about like tapping into supply chains or going, oh, Woodlands, okay, that sounds like a fantastic opportunity. So it's a long play. I mean, I don't think there's any simple answer to it. And I mean, I know I can say a lot of municipalities, you know, they'll start off at a certain amount and go, okay, well, we need more. Like, you know, we didn't ask enough at the outset, you know, in their own municipal budgeting. I'm not even talking about grants. But I think it's really interesting too, this notion around the contingency. I think that's quite unique because, you know, these grant opportunities come up and a lot of times municipalities just aren't positioned. Like they can't even consider doing matching dollars. Nor do they have a baseline in terms of the data and the ability to fill out that application in a timely manner because they're under the gun. You're like, I don't know, I don't have the data and statistics to make the case to apply for this grant. So I don't know if any of that helps.
It really does,
But
thank you.
it's a tough balance, and it's certainly tough when you're in your counselor position and you're thinking about the returns, and obviously, you know, trying to articulate, you know, to residents who have different concerns. You know, I often think of it like economic development is about pulling back up and seeing the entirety of the situation, whereas an individual resident or an individual business might be looking at their particular parcel, their particular site, their particular gravel road, and it's a little more challenging to pull it up. And yet, when you pull it up, that's the net benefit. That's why we do it. That's why we make these investments and we utilize our expertise on you know, within our, you know, staff and other sources, and trying to figure out, okay, well, how do I then think about the best opportunity as a municipality going forward to try to really put our best foot forward to then think about, okay, we're not just going to fix that road that goes into that one subdivision. We can actually do a whole road improvement program.
Awesome, thank you. Go ahead, Councillor.
Yeah, and I think further to the discussion that we've had around this table before, you know, the committee really has recognized the strength of our EDO, what he's good at, and we've tried to make council aware that he shouldn't be spending his time organizing a Christmas parade. Right now, under the org chart, that falls under our EDO. So we as a committee are trying to change the way economic development is thought of at the council table and let him focus on the stuff that he's good at that's going to bring value back to the county. And parades are great, but to me they got nothing to do with economic development.
And we just kind of want to, in the brevity of time, or thinking of time, let's kind of
Sure.
get to our final comments on this.
So one last comment, and building off of one of the first things that Sean said. How often, so at the site link in Lac La Biche and at the site link that you attended, Patricia, did we hear, wow, we had no idea you guys had so much opportunity? Right?
Definitely.
That's been a recurrent theme at all of the ones that we've attended. And so it's just proof of that people just don't know who we are and what we have for opportunity. And that's the whole goal of this, is to just pour jet fuel on the things that we've been doing and try to do more of it by leveraging federal or provincial dollars as best we can.
I liked Sean's comment about how do you get on the map of the right people.
Yeah.
So that's what the program needs to target. How do you get recognized by the industries that you're targeting? How do you get them to consider Woodlands County?
So would it be fair to say that a part of getting on the map is the networking?
Absolutely.
100%.
And so I would suggest that
And the
we're,
third-party endorsements are so strong because it's like, oh, yeah, well, we talked to Woodlands County 2 years ago. Yeah, oh, they're still doing marketing?
Right.
That's cool.
so I sort of think we are on the map now. You know,
they know we exist, I'll put it that way. But yeah, I mean, we're not at the, not past the edge of the map as we maybe were.
Sure.
Three, is that a fair way to put it?
It's-
Maybe, but, yeah,
yeah, I mean, the job's
But
far
thank you.
from done,
yes.
but the amount of work that you've done and the circle of people
We're-
that know you is
Yeah.
much different than it was 2 years ago.
And it's really kind of neat to see the momentum, right? Because it's momentum. We can feel that we're stepping forward. And when we have the ability to bring people in from the outside, we show them what we like. I mean, we know what we're doing now, right? So this is our opportunity to be able to just do more of what we know we can do.
Can I make one final comment that just occurred to me, Chair? Is that, the way you've restructured the language here, it does provide council with an awareness of the amount, based on analysis, of the amount to be competitive and to raise that awareness campaign. And you've allowed that flexibility of a maximum up to, but it does give it's an opportunity now to have that, that dialogue with council, say, this is what we actually need to do if we want to move in a certain direction based on your strategic objectives and in which it's highlighted through council's strategic plan. This is what we need to win. And from that, you can make that decision if you want to scale that back. But just as an awareness, this is based on the analysis. This is what we think we need to win. Sorry, final point.
I love winning, so I think that's a great comment. Okay, and could you actually, Bert, please reread the updated recommendation?
I think I
For the
have it.
motion?
You want me to make the
Oh,
motion?
I'm sorry. Oh, yes, go ahead.
You ready?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I like to make the motion that the Economic Development Committee recommends that Woodlands County Council endorses the NRED program application for the design and activation of the 3-year integrated plan to aggressively enhance Woodland County's investment attraction profile with the corporate industrial site selectors to a maximum of $200,000 a year over 3 years, recognizing that 100%, $100,000 per year is matching from the county.
Well done. Any further comments on the motion? Call the motion, all in favor? Awesome, thank you. And thank you very much for your input on that. I know I put you on the spot, so. Alrighty, so then we are moving Larry along.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, committee, and I hope I've got that captured properly. We do have the video to back us up. So that would take us to our next item, which is the Small Community Opportunity Program application. Well, this is, we're not to but this is for the next year. This is building off what we're doing.
Yes.
Sorry, Madam Chair, for the table aside there.
Absolutely. Okay, and 7.2, this one, Bert, take it away.
All right, thank you. So, balancing out our business investment and attraction efforts is, of course, business retention and expansion efforts. And so that's really what this SCOP application is geared to do. So the SCOP has a maximum of $100,000 with a roughly 10% on the dollar contribution. So what we've done, again, same as with the NRED, I've worked through this process with our grant writer, and we again had a bit of a conversation with Brad Hestback about this, but building off of what we know that we should be able to do, because there were a couple of other successful applications last year under the SCOP program with a strong focus on business retention and expansion. We're proposing exactly those similar kinds of things. And what's exciting is in the last year, we've seen our Grow Your Business event, as well as our local vendor brand that we've developed. And those are two fundamental components of this application. We want to simply be able to be doing more and more of those kinds of things as well. So being able to, and we're at the very initial stages, and Sean will give us an update in committee later on the current SCOP program that we have, that we're working on the agricultural side. But what we know is that a lot of our businesses in the county aren't aware of the other businesses that are in the county. So raising awareness and raising the ability to cooperate and collaborate. And Mr. Goody, what was your word you said this morning,
Competition.
co-opetition, and to be able to co-compete as well. So there are some very interesting things that on that business retention and expansion side of things we can do with our smaller business community to identify potential job growth and how we can help them to get over the hurdles they face. And that's really what the idea is behind this SCOP application. So again, it's the same process as with the NRED. The application deadline for this is on December 20th. So we've got an extra couple of weeks. But again, in that budgeting cycle with council, and again, coming from that same contingency fund, the idea would be that we would ask for the endorsement of an application to the SCOP for a 2-year program for $100,000 with our funds committed through the contingency fund and through some of the other operational dollars we already have in place on the next 2 years for the county. To be able to do the focus on BR&E.
Go ahead, Councillor Dean.
Thanks for the chair to Bert. So the project cost is $115K. 90% of that is eligible through Small Community Opportunity Program funding. So the municipal contribution is $15K.
Yes.
And you note that $15,000 is coming from this year's operating budget?
So we, I apologize, maybe I did typo that a bit. That should be 2024. It should actually be 2025 and 2026
Okay.
would be where that would come from.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Dean. Because for the SCOP that we're doing right now, we have some of that coming from this year and already some of that coming from next year. And I do apologize, this is the problem that we have if we call our programs based on the grant platform that we've applied to, if we have successive ones, it gets a bit confusing. So for SCOP2, we'll use that as a working term.
Sure.
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, if there's no questions, I'd be prepared to move that the Economic Development Committee recommends that Woodlands County Council endorse a Small Community Opportunity Program application of $100,000 to implement the Woodlands County's Business Retention and Expansion BR&E strategy, which will retain local businesses, prevent economic leakage, and foster a collaborative business environment, and one that's also
Operative.
And create co-opetition.
create co-opetition. You can strike that if you want.
Any further discussion on the motion? Go ahead.
I have a question. Did we get a grant last year for something?
Yes, under the SCOP program, and that's what Sean and I will give an update on
Oh,
later
okay.
today.
Okay.
Yes, correct.
Any further discussion? I'll call the question. All in favor? Awesome. Moving on. Okay, under section 8.2, the work plan updates, I would ask if anybody has any questions, and if they do not, then if somebody wants to entertain, go ahead.
I'd make a motion. I just question, how are we for parade participants?
It's a moving target. Unfortunately, we've had a couple people that had said yes, they would be there, that have had to cancel. Jennifer, unfortunately, has been away this week due to illness. She is planning to be healthy and be there on Saturday for sure. We saw pictures today of what Ambrose is building on the float, and we've gone with a snowman's ball theme, and we have some awesome snowmen and some different types of snowballs and different things. It's going to look fantastic. And we'll have anywhere from 2 to a dozen parade float riders. And we've got one counselor that has said that he's unable to attend. We've got 4 others that are, I think, planning on being there, and a couple of maybes. And so we could end up with anywhere from, I'll say, 6 to 15 people is kind of the rough count right now. But it's, and unfortunately, I will be away. We're leaving tomorrow for the Salt Lake City conference. So this will be the first Christmas parade that I've missed. But I know we're in good hands with Jen and Ambrose and with everybody else, so we should be good.
Are you and your family interested in
We're on
riding?
our church's float.
Okay.
As soon as you said that, I was like, oh man.
Okay, well, thanks for that, Bert. So I'd move that the EDC approves the work plan updates as info.
Go ahead,
I just
Crystal.
have a question, because this is all of the events and stuff like that, correct? Is this the good time to discuss the EDA and maybe Grow the North conferences and what we all plan to attend this year? Or is this not the right time?
So we've got them all within the budget. So for the EDA conference this year, we do have rooms and I do have everybody registered. So I think we've got 8 registrants and 8 rooms for EDA set up. So we haven't gone into those final details yet, but the intent is to take all 4 of our committee members at large, as we've done in the past. And then we've got room for myself and a couple of counselors to come along as well. That's what we've been able to work on that side. The Growing the North, we haven't designated a specific member at large for that one yet, but we do have that in the budget for next year as well. So, yeah, and that should be in, I believe, February.
Usually. And if members at large would rather go to that than the EDA conference, that's an option as well.
Yes, because I guarantee we've got a lot of counselors who would love to go to EDA, and I'll probably have more people that want to attend EDA than spots this year. But we do have, I believe it's 8 that we've got set aside.
And
If
Growing
you
the
haven't
North is
been
at
to
Grand
Growing
Prairie?
the North, it's a good event.
That's what I was just gonna say. I was gonna say, Rhonda from Whitecourt said like, or was it you too?
I
Both
did
said
as well.
like it was probably better bang for your buck going to Grow the North. So, do you mind if I just get the dates for those? You can email me.
Thank you, yes. It would
Okay,
be,
yeah, fair enough, yeah.
yeah.
And I agree, they're both really great conferences with very different focuses. And the Growing the North, particularly because of the proximity to Woodlands County and because so much of what they're covering is really relevant to our base here, I would highly recommend us sending as many people as possible to Growing the North. So I think that there's a great deal of value in it, and it's an exceptionally good networking opportunity.
We did actually put into the budget request this year, so again, just on the request, we did up all of the levels of involvement for our members at large. So I think I added in 2 new conferences, and we upped the mileage, and we upped the meals, and we upped all of those related funds on the per diem side as well, so.
Motion on the table.
Okay, oh, sorry, go ahead. Okay, and the motion that's on the table, no further questions. We'll call the question, all in favor? Awesome, thank you so much. Alrighty, now, under Blue Sky, we actually don't have anything under Blue Sky or committee reports for this meeting. So I believe, Bert, correct me if I'm wrong, that we should be okay to move into our closed session items under FOIP?
Yes, ma'am. And then for those folks that are following us online, what we'll do is we'll move into closed session. And when that's concluded, we will move out, and any motions that we make from there would appear in the minutes. But once we stop our YouTube feed, we won't be back on YouTube. So, yeah, we should be cleared to go into closed session, and we would just need a motion and to note the time, please.
I make a motion that we go into closed session, and the time on the wall clock, it says 3:22.
Oh, go
Do
ahead, Councillor.
we need a reason, a FOIP?
No, I think we're, now do I or not? Shoot.
It should be stated, but
Yes, I believe it should be, but,
I do know I know the reasoning, not the correct section.
yeah.
But of course, the
and you know what?
reasoning is we're gonna be discussing some names of,
Yeah,
names and details
basically,
of private
the
business.
reasoning is we're going operational to discuss the update on the current SCOP program. So there are some names and some details there that are related to our operations that we don't want to disclose, as well as the site selector activities. We don't want to disclose that information publicly at this point. And then the terms of reference document for business support networks, we've been asked, because that's a working document by one of our partners, to not disclose that publicly at this point. So those are our reasons for moving for the closed session.
excellent, all right?
I think FOIP 17 covers most of that.
I think you're correct, and I'll have to go back and check, because that should be there on the public meeting package, but I don't, for some reason, in this meeting package that I printed for us, I don't have the closed session RFD, and I'm not exactly sure why, but that's usually quoted on there. So FOIP 17 does sound correct, and if we've made an error, I will do my best to make sure that we fix it.
Okay, thank you very much. And we have a motion on the table. All in favor? Awesome, thank you.